a monstrous lie indoctrinated young. What to think, don't question why. Well trained to hold my tongue. Oh, how I fell for this. No, not on me I miss. So that's a lie about the man on the So now the globe is drowning in that lagoon. So that's a lie about the man on the In this cell I call my home, I wait to hear a word. TV's ditched to save my brain from propaganda dirt. My earth is standing still. I took the big red pill. So that's a lie about the man on the So now the globe is drowning in that So that's a lie about the man on the Faith is blind, belief is dead. I only need the facts. Love is truth and fear is hate. So sharpen up your axe. No, never fall for this. It's not you, you're me.
again, Steve Thorne. There we are. I need my watch page, hang on. Right, before I go any further, I'm just going to share another wee clip.
The magic of science to people of all ages.
I'm Julius Sumner Miller. I teach physics.
The physics, you see, that I taught was down to earth, so the man in the street could follow it. Men of science are given to the view that their stuff is too esoteric, too high in the clouds for the man and the woman on the path to understand. But physics has always been, for me, sort of a homely thing. You see, children are endowed abundantly with curiosity. And I'm grieved to tell you, as Einstein said, the schools destroy the holy spirit of curiosity. To put it in a phrase, boys and girls are emerging from every level, at every level, with diplomas and certificates and degrees, who can't write, can't read, can't calculate. This is scandalous, and fortunes are spent. And the claim of the schools and the school officers is, we don't get enough money. I can do better with less. I could have a very good class under an apple tree. Don't need a classroom. Maybe a blackboard.
As we left his El Segundo home, where he is ready and waiting for his next television series, he left us with this thought.
If every day you learn one little single thing, and you live 70 years, would you not have gathered up a handsome body of knowledge? Which has been my ambition all my years. To convey a body of knowledge which, when added together, little piece by little piece, in infinitesimal accretion, layer by layer, would not this do something for you in all your years?
So, just as a man said, and I've always said, if it's out with the hands of the common man and women, children, and you leave it in the hands of institutions and authorities, then you're going to end up with heliocentric Big Bang globe Earth nonsense. Right? That's what's going to happen. An actual discovery and progression as a species, whatever the fuck we are, is going to be halted, because men and women, children are no longer curious about what they are, what their reality is. They're born into a rat race. They're born running. Ideas, concepts, assumptions made, ideas and concepts integrated, bought into, attention given to them. This is life, this is what happens, this is what's expected of you, this is where you should be by the age of 7, this is where you should be by the age of 20. Here's your choices laid out for you. And nobody ever stops to question, where are they? What's actually going on here? What is this place? And we're so many generations now down the road where technology, particularly visual technology, has advanced to the point now that people can hardly keep focus or attention on any one particular topic for any longer than 10 seconds. You can't even reason with people about the beliefs, the concepts, the ideas, the assumptions they have made in regards to their life, who they are, where they are. And again, it always has to come back. If you and I, as human sentience, cannot share things in a practical manner, then what are we invested in? What are we even looking at? And you see it in particular in mainstream science, mainstream media. They're offering you religious narratives and stories about you and your existence and where you are. And it's the very same people who gave you the narratives and the stories of sky daddies, some transcendental beings that have got a purpose and a meaning for your life. Very same people. Whether you think you're an atheist philosopher and partaking materialistic, naturalistic type thinking, or whether you're some idealist spiritual guru or whatever it is, every single one of these people are practicing religions. For me, they're a sign of the weakness and the insecurity that is rife amongst human beings. They'll never stop to question base assumptions. They run away up in the clouds, espousing their supposed knowledge about the universe and who they are and their place within it and yada yada yada. And if you don't have that, you get dipshit psychologists practicing pseudoscience, trying to adjust you to fit into the fucked up scenario, the concept, the idea that is your culture. Well, deep down, something is screaming out inside you that deeper questions must be asked here. I do not want a dummy tit. I do not want a fucking substitute. I don't want a pacifier. But that's what people have come to accept. Well, they run the rat race. They think they're experts on universal mechanics, repeating garbage that's fed to them through mainstream education and mainstream media about macro and micro space balls zipping round each other as if by magic, with no rhyme or reason, no rationale, no logic, no intelligence behind any of it. But yet they sit at the top of the pile, looking down upon thee, spouting their rationale and their logic and their intelligence. If you cannot verify and test things for yourself, or if you have no will, you should never be making claims. You're muddying the waters. It's fallacious reasoning for the majority of people who just follow authority or the general populace, constantly employing fallacious reasoning, but yet act with a smug assuredness that they think they comprehend. And they don't. The reality is very, very simple. Nobody that I know of knows where we are, why we're here. First and foremost, we have to establish where we actually are. If you want to build the picture of what we are, how we came to be, what our role within this whole shebang is, we have to start the groundwork. Where are we? You have an abundance of philosophies, religions, spiritual teachings, cultural teachings, yada yada yada. None of that is objectively true. So surely you must see that it's a symptom of the fact that human beings have been blinded and misled in regards to where they actually are. I'm sure you've realised that in your own life and asked the questions, what's this about? But somehow that just gets pushed to the background and the rat race comes to the foreground, and that becomes your sole goal, your desire. But what you have to realise and understand is that these things have been offered to you. You have been conditioned to partake in these concepts. They're not off your own back. They're not through your honest inquiry, your curiosity. You were never given the tools of discernment. How language works, how to incorporate it into your your mind frame, how to recognise it in others, how to be able to tear apart rhetorical gibberish and expose the fallacies. None of that was ever offered to you. That used to exist, still does exist, and if you've got money and you're in the right position, you may get access, but the general populace used to get it. No, they don't. There's a good reason for that. Again, if you want to control people and you want to have the upper hand, firstly, you can blind them and bamboozle them and confuse them about the very place that they call home. Nothing makes any sense. You're on a wobbling, twirling globe in a vacuum with millions and millions of miles between you and anything else. So right there and then, stay still. Everything's been figured out. Nowhere to go. Might as well just partake in the me. Adopt some ideas, chase your tail, try and get self-gratification. Which I'm not decrying anybody of. I'm not saying it's wholly a negative. But when that's your only focus, without ever reasoning your way to an understanding or questioning where you actually are and what you're a part of, then you're a willfully ignorant, delusional, mentally ill human. Hello everybody. The thing about it is, you've got so many gurus and people in different avenues talking about conspiracy, spirituality, what it means to be human, yada yada yada. Why do you lend your attention to any of that? Why do you lend your attention to me? This is for the individual. The individual has to partake in his own journey. Discern for yourself. You should never be swayed by argumentation. When we're talking about objectivity, it's not about winning debates and arguments. It's about setting a foundation for yourself and what you deem as reasonable for you to accept something being objectively true. As I've said so many times, the only way for that, for me, is practicality. Any claim that's being made, I must be able to participate with it practically. No excuses. If you're listening and paying your attention to things that are out with your direct experience, you're wasting your time. You're contributing to a massive muddying of the waters by thinking you're windswept and interesting and gaining knowledge. When really you're not. You're just filling space with useless, idiotic drivel that's of no relevance to you. These people, I see some people mention some of these characters on Tinterwebs. They're beyond contempt. Now, I have absolutely no respect. I have no desire to engage with any of these people. I'm not interested. The only thing I'm interested in is that individuals become empowered so that they can reason and discern off their own back without being swayed by anybody else. Because that's the games that are afoot. People are removing responsibility and adopting a groupthink mentality. And that groupthink mentality is then directed by an elected leader, whether it be in a political arena or on YouTubes or whatever avenue you're pursuing. That's what usually happens. As I say, these people are beyond contempt. There is no debate. The people who continually perpetuate the notion that this is somehow a debate are dishonest charlatans who are not interested in you bettering yourself or benefiting yourself in any way, shape or form. It is their goal that you remain in ignorance and bewilderment and be apathetic, so then that can be preyed upon. I've not been on recently because sometimes there's just nothing to offer. And I said it before, a lot of the desire for me to appear on here week in, week out is simply because the same reason from the very beginning. There are so many charlatans here. I'm a genuine person who is, you know, a selfish want to know more. But I realised that selfish want requires other people. You know, just one single man, I don't have the logistical capabilities to achieve what I want to achieve. So, you know, at the same time, I come here hoping that maybe one week, one day, one person may get something that's useful to them and it changes them for the better. The other factor is because, you know, there's a part of me that gets entertained by trolling desperately weak liars, because, as I say, they deserve nothing but ridicule and contempt. You've got these people who are on internet, you know, all manner of social media, defending all sorts of invested interests. And one of the main things you hear them shouting is conspiracy theorists, fringe lunatics, this, that and the other. I mean, at this point in time, do people actually swallow any of that fucking garbage? You don't continually harangue people for years and years at a time that you profess and claim are fringe lunatics. There's always organised factions defending invested interests, and I love nothing more than making them dance and throwing the absolute shit right at them. So just the sheer fact that me hitting that button and appearing on here makes them dance is incentive enough. And as I say, there's a wee nasty side of me that takes some satisfaction and joy out of that. But at the same time, they deserve it. So, there is no one saviour. There is no, you know, the way out of all this stuff is for people, individuals, to start discerning for themselves, understand the workings of your own fucking mind, understand how language works, understand how manipulation through argumentation works. Question your beliefs, question your assumptions. Why do you hold them to be true? What is it based upon? Is it based upon direct experience? Or have you been influenced by peer pressure, groupthink, going with consensus, going along to get along? It's a very dangerous game for you to play. How are we? So I've got a few things I want to talk about tonight. One of the main things I want to talk about is the fact that regardless of what anybody does, and I'm going to incorporate the senses into this and talk a bit about vision, and what people really need to comprehend is that at the centre of anything is always the observer. Now this observer, the experiencer, the soul, whatever people want to term it, is first and foremost. When we talk about the sensory apparatus of the body, like the eye, I'll use an analogy for you. Because at the end of the day, this comes to two pillars. There's two possible options here, right? So when we look at something like the eye, I'll use analogies. When you go into a body of water, you know your vision's blurred under there, so you use goggles so that you've got clarity of vision. Now, would you ever say that the goggles see anything? No, you wouldn't. When you look through a telescope, does a telescope see anything? No, it doesn't. When you look through your eyes, do your eyes see anything? No, they don't. What is it that's seeing? What is it that holds the quality of being able to experience what we call vision? Because your eyes don't see anything. Same with the other senses. Your ears don't hear. Your nose doesn't smell. Your body doesn't feel pain. So you've got two warring factions, if you like. One faction is trying to tell you that all that sensory stuff that goes on is happening in the brain, that it somehow maps to physical lumps of meat, and that you are just some robotic, biological robot that has no free will, no consciousness, no thing inside that you could say is the experiencer or the observer. All your behaviours and interactions are all predetermined by mechanistic goings on, trying to bring you down to that level that you're just a lumbering piece of meat. And then they're going to tell you that all this talk of the experiencer and the observer and consciousness are all illusions. This is just what the machine does. There is no you. But as I just said a minute ago, pieces of meat and matter don't experience anything. You require a sentience. Without that sentience, there is no experience of vision or any other sense. When a human body dies and the eyes are wide open, do you think those eyes still see? No, because there's something missing now. So in one pillar, you've got the materialist that's going to tell you that it's all just pieces of meat that's making all the magic happen. Then you've got the other side who are saying you've got a soul, something that transcends. And to be honest with you, I would kind of lean in that direction, because for the very reasons that I've just stated. And it brings the question, does sensory experience transcend the physical? Is it deeper rooted in some metaphysical place, position, whatever, beyond the physical? When you are in a darkened room and you dream, and then you wake, you have a memory of that experience. Now in both cases, whether you are awake or whether you are asleep, there's a quality to both of those scenarios, and that quality is there was an experiencer. There was something that knew what it felt to be in any given scenario or situation or sequence of events. So in a dream state, are you using sensory apparatus? You're in a darkened room with no penetrable light anywhere and you're fast asleep. You awake with a memory of events, scenarios, people, buildings, colour. Did you use your eyes to see people in your dream? I think not. I mean, it's just a memory. It's your brain. Your brain's making sparksy stuffsies and throwing out three-dimensional experiences and stuffs or reasons or something. Regardless, in both situations, awake or asleep, there is the quality of experience. And I think there's a lot of confusion that's probably been done deliberately. A lot of mix and matching of, these types of discussions. As I've said so many times before, as the predicament that we find ourselves in, we are subject to definite physicality. Right? Now there's physical interactions, cause and effect relationships going on with this waking life experience that nobody can deny. And for me, it has to be a totally separate issue. So we have physicality and physical interaction. That's what we deem as physics. But there's this part that encompasses that whole thing, and that is the experiencer, the observer. Now when we get to that type of discussion, we're now talking metaphysics, and none of the two should ever be intertwined or used to battle off against each other. They have to remain totally separate issues, so that there's clarity and understanding in what people are talking about and what we're trying to achieve. What have I missed here? Now we have a following user other than this nonsense. If you think I'm talking nonsense, there's absolutely no reason for you to be here. I say this is a preposterous stuff that people go on about. You know, I don't know how anybody made you come here. I don't know how anybody made 218 people come here. People are doing that off their own back. I'm just going to sit here and be me and say what I've got to say, and that's it. Take from it what you will, leave what you want. I don't care. It's your taking the pineal gland, Del. Well, I've heard so many things. It's the seat of the soul. It's the tether. It's the junction point between the metaphysical and the physical. I've heard all sorts. But again, I don't have any direct experience of the pineal gland, nor anything that I can separate and comprehend and isolate as being specific to pineal gland. It's all just conceptual, which again, when we're in the realms of metaphysics, you know, anything could be possible. What experiences the itchy foot? What's experiencing the itchy foot? That's a question you always need to come to. Because in any physical experience, there is an observer, there's an experiencer, and that's what I'm pointing at, that's what I'm talking about. When you eat something or, you know, taste something, there's a quality that you would call experience. What is it? What does it mean to have that experience? What is that? There's qualities to that. Seeing I'm disconnected, I've got absolutely no idea whether I'm still streaming or I'm not. Don't know what's going on here. Oh, there it's back again. Something happened. Come up saying I was disconnected. So hope you're all well, people. So what was I looking at recently? I'm going to have a wee look at centripetal and centrifugal, these things that are effects, no forces, and how people try and use centripetal as some sort of fucking pseudo force to, you know, explain nonsense like gravity. When we'll establish what centripetal actually is, it's got nothing to do with, you know, being a force or any of that type. Okay? As I've showed so many times before, motion only requires pressure variance. You either apply more pressure or you relieve pressure in order to achieve motion. Centrifugal effect is that outward apparent push that you feel when you're in a moving, spinning object. But we'll get to that. The other thing I've been looking at is, that came to me, when we talk about visual perception, we talk about the geometry of vision and whatever else, something dawned on me that's raised some questions. And I just want to offer it up to you because right now I don't have anything much to offer you on it, but it's a curious thing. So what you can do is you can get hold of two mirrors, stand in front of one mirror and have another mirror at the back of you. What you will see is you'll see an apparent infinite regress of the same image with a perspective type ratio, you know, getting smaller and narrower as it goes to a central point. Now we know fine well that a mirror has no depth. So when we look at something like this, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. As you can see here, the image repeats but gets smaller and appears as if it has depth, distance to it, when you know fine well it has no distance. So what does that imply? What is going on here? Now you look at the explanations and you get absolute fucking gibberish word salad, which can bounce a beam of light back and forth an indefinite, theoretically infinite number of times. The reflections appear to recede into the distance because the light actually is traversing the distance it appears to be travelling. Now first and foremost, we need to make all sorts of assumptions about light here, right? And what's it talking about? Distance? What distance? There is no fucking distance. Why is the image narrowing, maintaining the same image, but appearing as if it does go into some sort of distance? Because it bloody well does not. So what does this imply about our vision? What's going on here? Questions to be asked. Get on it. Have a look at it yourself. Right, I'm going to play this wee video, Centripetal Centrifugo, right, because I've seen it. Globe believers are being asked how gravity functions. As I've pointed out again before, gravity pulls stuff towards the centre. The only way that can be happening is that some medium, some pressure medium is being, you know, pressed upon, which is causing a flow to a central position, right? Because you can't have two objects with a vacuum between them, right? And expect to bring one object towards another object. I don't need to keep going over all this, it should be well understood by now. Motion requires pressure variance. So when you get people talking about accelerative aspects, direction, you know, making things move, they don't get to invoke magical non-entities that are contrary to what we know and we test in everyday existence. You want something to move, you need to apply a pressure to it. It's very simple. So they'll use this centripetal, and this is part of the sophistry. It's like they try and implant some image-based thing in your mind and pass it off as some reason, right, that satisfies you. And again, it happens because people don't put their attention to it and analyse it properly. Because what you'll see when we look at centripetal would suggest that everything is tethered to the earth by some sort of string, some invisible string or rope or whatever. There would have to be some sort of attachment. So let's have a wee look at it. See, even right away they're talking about forces. There are no forces. They're effects.
Imagine swinging a rope around in a circle with a can attached to the end.
First and foremost, in order to get it to swing around, you would have to apply some sort of pressure, okay, to make that happen. Now as you can see here, this rope is tethered to this. So as that is rotated outwards and you get the centrifugal effect, which is it going in an outwards direction, there is a constant pressure on the opposite side of whatever it's tethered to, right? So it applies a pressure here on the back side of this. Same in the inside of the can. You would have a knot or something there, which then applies a pressure on the inside of the can to this face, which is facing you. Okay? And from that, you're going to get a tension on this rope. So maybe that's what they're trying to reference, tension, and trying to pass it off as centripetal, or whatever it is. It's just language based yet again. But as I say, I've seen people trying to use this as some sort of reference for how, imagine this is a globular earth here, and this is the fucking moon, right? And the reason that the moon stays in orbit around the fucking globe earth is because it's tethered by some imaginative fucking rope. When we know in reality there is no fucking rope between them, so there is no physical attachment between one and the other.
The can is in a constant state of acceleration since its velocity is constantly changing due.
You hear that? Constantly accelerating because its velocity is constantly changing. It's going on a circular path, no straight line uniform. Again, then you would have to ask the question, what's fucking powering all the wee space planetoids within the vacuum that are doing loops? Huh? Constantly changing direction. What's the input? What is the source of this power that helps to constantly accelerate? Utter nonsense. That's what it is.
Due to its circular path. Acceleration of the can is caused by a net force acting on the object. In the case of an object moving in a circular path, the net force is called centripetal force or center-seeking force and is always pulling an object toward the center of a circle.
It's not pulling it, it's not pulling it, it's tethered. Okay? So when you break it down again, as I says to you, as that rotates around, this rope has to be looped around this. Now the pressure point is always going to be immediately across, okay, the line. So the pressure point is now here, coming in this direction. That is where you would experience the most pressure. The same is true here for the inside of the face at the bottom of the can. There would be another notch in the inside so that the rope remains within it, and as that is accelerated, rotated, the pressure is increased here and the pressure is increased on the inside of the face at the bottom of the can. It's always pressure.
Without this force, an object will continue moving in a straight line motion. The centripetal force.
And again, you're hearing it. Without this tethering, it would continually just go off in a straight line. You can try this yourself. Get a weight on a piece of rope and swing it in circles. Now let it go. It doesn't form an arc. It goes in a straight line. Usually about 90 degrees to where you let it go. Okay?
Force is the tension on the rope. The centripetal force is equal to mass times velocity squared divided by the...
Again, they keep calling it a force. It's no. You could measure the amount of pressure that's been applied on the inside here, and you could also measure the amount of pressure that's been applied on the opposite side of this.
Radius. As these variables change, so will the centripetal force. An increase in mass or velocity, or a decrease in radius, will result in an increase in the centripetal force. A decrease in mass or velocity, or an increase in radius, will result in a decrease in the centripetal force. A change in velocity results in the largest change in centripetal force. If the rope is cut, the can will no longer maintain a circular path, and it will fly in a straight line tangent due to Newton's first law of inertia. The force of gravity pulls the moon towards the center of the earth.
So here we go. This is what I'm saying. This is how these things, this is part of the sophistry. Right? Trying to implant an idea or an image-based idea within your mind and then cut to this gibberish, trying to pass it off as the same. So the question then is asked, okay, where's the tethering from this object to this object? Incidentally, you know, I'll digress quickly while I'm on it. It was actually Kaz that brought this to my attention. Now, two 3D spheres in three-dimensional space, you can always draw a straight line from any point on that to that, okay? Regardless of whether it's here or run here or down here or whatever, you'll always have a straight line to the other object. Now you need to ask the question, when does anybody ever observe the moon directly overhead? So if you were standing levelled with your eyes, when have you ever, or anybody ever seen the moon at 90 degrees to that level, directly above head, which would be an absolute requirement? At any given time, this thing is going to be directly above any given point relative to its position in relation to this one.
This pull is the centripetal force keeping the moon in orbit around the Earth.
See,
If
force, this centripetal force. I've just showed you it tethered to a can. Tethered. What's tethering it? Nothing.
Earth's gravity ceased to exist, the moon would fly off into space in a straight line. Another example of centripetal force is the force that binds mud to a tire as it rotates. As the rotation speed of the tire increases, the centripetal force will not be great enough to hold the mud onto the tire.
The force was the igniting of the fuel in the combustion chamber. Everything else was just an effect.
And the mud will fly off the tire in straight line tangents. As we saw with the can that was attached to the string, the centripetal force is the force that creates the tension on the string, the center-seeking force.
What's creating the tension on the string is because it's tethered here on the inside and tethered around this.
There are two perspectives in this example, outside of the can and inside the can. As Newton's third law states, for every action, there is an equal and opposite.
This is what I was talking about before, of how you can give, within a reference frame, like within the can. Now this insect here, because this is in a circular motion with an outward effect of the centrifugal effect, what this insect would be experiencing is that this here is its downward position and the opposite end would be its upward position. Okay, this insect has now been given new directions relative to its position within that reference frame through motion. Okay, and again, if you had different particulates in here, if you had oil, dirt, sand, water, and you continually spun that around, what you're going to get is a density layering. So the most dense material would find its way to the bottom, or this end of the can, and everything else would be in its relative density. Again, showing you that motion can achieve what we have as direction. Not only that, the rate of which that is being spun round it is going to dictate, if you put a scale here under the insect and you swung it even faster, the weight of that insect would appear to increase. If you kept it uniform, continuous, it would have a set, what we call weight. Its volume and its mass never changes, but you can increase and decrease its weight depending on how fast you rotate the can, or spin the can on the tether.
Reaction. From outside of the can, there should be an outward reaction force to the centripetal force. This center fleeing force is known as the centrifugal force.
And that is the only effect that is there. What they're saying is the centripetal force is only because of the tension, because it is tethered on both ends, which means the pressures applied in the inside of the can behind the face and the same at the other end on the opposite side.
The reactive centrifugal force is the reaction force to a centripetal force. The can, undergoing curved motion, constantly accelerates toward the axis of rotation. This centripetal acceleration is provided by a centripetal force, which is exerted on the can by some other object. This is the reactive centrifugal force. It is directed away from the center of rotation and is exerted by the rotating can on the object that originates the centripetal acceleration.
What?
If an object is placed inside the can, the object appears to have an outward force pushing it against the bottom of the can.
Yeah. So, that's what I'm saying. Because it's tethered here in this direction, it's constantly being pushed outwards to this. That becomes its new down orientation. Opposite that is its new up. From there, you have all the other directions.
And away from the center of rotation. The apparent centrifugal force is most commonly introduced as an outward force apparent in a rotating frame or reference. It is apparent or fictitious in the sense that it is not part of an interaction.
You can experience that, what I'm talking about how you can increase and decrease the weight. Okay, you know, you go to the fairground and you've got some ride where it's got a spinning motion. They'll usually tell you to have the biggest person on the outside, okay? Because your weight is going to increase as that spin takes effect. And if you have got somebody smaller than you, you're probably going to crush them as your weight increases, depending on how fast it goes.
But actually the object's inertia. The object naturally wants to travel in a straight line, but the centripetal force doesn't allow this. This type of force is associated with describing motion in a non-inertial reference frame and referred to as a fictitious or inertial force. The reactionary and apparent centrifugal forces are not real forces. The reactionary centrifugal force is a result of the rotation, not a force. The apparent...
Does that sound familiar? Gravity's not... It appears as a force, but it's not really a force. Right, so that brings us back again into the realms of physics and how we can establish and understand how we can create direction, weight, density layering, and it would require some sort of motion. Again, without this, what you have to then postulate is that, say this is static and this is our reference frame and we're within it, that this is your downwards position here, okay? And that there would have to be some flow of some kind from the top to the bottom. The top to bottom would be relative to us within the reference frame. And as I say, I'm open to that possibility. I've yet to see anything that could create that. The only other thing that I was playing with that would be a possible scenario if we were in a static position would be something like sound. So from the top position to a relative to us downward position, you would have some sort of sound frequency going on. So maybe at the very, a very base level, a bass note that's then has other, notes on top of it. Who knows? You can see this in cymatics. You can see how sound vibration can affect matter, can make it form geometric patterns, can change its direction, can accelerate it, can break it apart. So, possibility, much more possibility than pseudoscience of fictitious fucking imaginary forces that pull on you and all this abracadabra, cartoon magical gibberish. Again, showing you that what these people postulate is so far removed from practical referenced reality that it's just beyond a fucking joke.
Centrifugal force is really the object's inertia. A more accurate definition for centrifugal force would be the lack of centripetal force. The concept of centrifugal force is used to describe the physics of rotating devices, such as a centrifuge.
So, as I said before, a centrifuge can show you that and how you can get a density layering. They use these to separate particulates and substances, liquids, whatever. Okay, and you can demonstrate that for yourself.
Centrifugal pump, centrifugal governors, and more. Even though centrifugal force is not a real force, it's commonly used because it's easier to describe the fictional force than describing the lack of the real centripetal force.
There isn't any real centripetal
Pumps that have an
force.
inlet near the center of rotation and an impeller that forces water outward against a volute to channel the water to an output away from the center of rotation are known as centrifugal pumps because the water is center fleeing.
Because it's not tethered to the rotating reference frame. Anything that's no tethered to a rotating reference frame is going to fly off the fucker.
The centripetal force is not strong enough to keep the water traveling in a circle with
There is no centripetal force because it would have to be tethered to the rotating part. And this is the bit that they continually leave out while at the same time invoking magic. So this can spin, but this has now got this magical stuffs in it that we'll call gravity, so that it keeps the water all clung to it and it doesn't fly off on a straight tangent. Which is reality, yet again.
impeller.
So ask the question, what's tethering us to the earth if it's fucking rotating and gyrating and wobbling all about the fucking vacuum of space, going at all sorts of different miles an hour and accelerating in a fucking circle and an elliptic and fucking, I mean, it's absolutely preposterous.
Resulting in the water moving out towards the pump volute. The physics of a centrifugal pump are not based on the imaginary centrifugal force, but the lack of centripetal force.
Else is that right then? Well, the Cavendish thing as well, I might as well just throw that in there. Again, you know, I was talking about true scale modelling. Anybody that's seen my first tongue-in-cheek video where I was pouring water onto the football to demonstrate how absurd it is to think that water, you know, can form, you know, topography on its surface, like conform to the exterior of a shape or an object, when we know fine well it does not. Now, what happened in these scenarios is you hear all this derisory laughter of ridicule. That's exactly what we would expect to see on a globular earth, because the mass that's underneath your small ball is affecting it, so therefore it pulls the water off of that ball onto the bigger ball underneath. You've heard this rhetorical gibberish a million times, but here's the thing, in the very same breath they'll turn around and tell you that a man with lead balls in a shed 400 years ago weighed the fucking Earth and Mars and Jupiter and the whole fucking universe, because he used torsion bars and the mass attracts mass and just this gibberish. The question should surely be then, how did he negate the already assumed gravitational field of the mass that was underneath his fucking lead balls and his torsion bar? Reasons. What he did was he used a torsion bar and that deflected gravity away so that it was isolated from gravity, and then it could turn gravity laterally, and then the two balls comes together or some shite. How did Cavendish isolate his lead ball crap from the assumed gravitational field beneath it? The answer is he fucking well did not. But again, it's just another sign of the cherry picking from the religious, corrupt zealots that defend the globular earth concept. What about the electrical universe theory? I don't know what the full theory is, but you know, we have electricity, we have, you know, different forms of it, and there's things going on. But I don't know how electricity could account for direction. I don't know how electricity would account for, you know, interacting with all particulates and separating them into the density layer. If somebody can demonstrate how that would be achieved through a practical reference, I'm all ears and I'm all eyes, willing to have a look at it. But this is the thing, everybody looks at these things as if that's the answer. It's got to be some more convoluted, complex fucking something. When in reality things are simple. And again, if you become removed from the practical reference and start espousing theoretical gibberish, there's a problem. I don't know what the firmament is. I don't claim a firmament or domes or any of that stuff. I don't claim any of that. I'm aware of FPV Angel in the group, but to be honest with you, I've just not had the time and the attention span to be able to get into it. What I would love to see from some of these postulations is, you know, starting from simple practical reference and working up and showing it in the simplest of fashions. And then even if they get to a point where they establish that it's theoretical or it's possible, then these things are laid out and people can comprehend that. But it's difficult to just jump into something when you don't know the beginning strands and where they come from. And I expressed that. But I would love to see it broken down in bite-sized chunks from beginning to where they're at right now. Same way anything. There has to be an incremental, you know, transition of the journey or the path so that anybody that comes across it can comprehend it in a simplistic manner and move forward and expand their understanding of where the people are at right now. For somebody like me, it's difficult, you know, and I'm sure many other people can relate to it. You know, I don't have time to sit through 5, 4, 6 hours videos trying to grasp where people are coming from. I need it to be offered to me from the beginning and the simplistic aspects moving forward. Again, that's not a negative on anybody's work or what they're trying to achieve or looking into. I'm just saying it from my preference point and how it would work better for me. And when I don't have that, I kind of tend to lose focus on it. Right, what else did I have here? I think that's pretty much it. I'm not going to be on tomorrow evening. As I say, I'll probably get back to some sort of routine on a Saturday evening as of next week. But for the last, you know, month or whatever, I've just had other things to contend with. And sometimes I just need a wee break away in order to get clarity and reassess my thoughts and pursue certain avenues of interest. So as of next week, I'll probably be back at my usual kind of slot, usual format. But I mean, this evening I'm open to people if they want to come in and join me. So it's an interesting, you know, way of going and looking at it. You know, because for me, what is central to all experience is that, the observer, the experiencer, and you can never negate it. Without a sentience to convey any sort of experience or findings, there is nothing. Okay? So, as I say to you, you've got two pillars that you're going to come to. You're going to come to some sort of materialist type philosophy, because again, they don't know what the brain is, they don't know what your consciousness is, they don't know why you sleep, they know fuck all. But yet they're willing to run away and tell you, you know, this and that, and you've got factions defending their positions, which again is a sign for you that nobody really knows. So if you're going about looking for the answers to some of these things, then I'm afraid I'm going to have to tell you that you're pissing in the wind. What's going to probably happen is that you'll have some form of bias of what you want to be true, and you're going to end up siding with a particular philosophy or, you know, teaching, depending on what bias you have formed. What you have to be aware of is that the answers to these questions do not exist. And all you have is people conceptualising and theorising about what it is, what it means to be human, what is your consciousness, what does it mean to be an experiencer? Is there a soul? Is there no soul? Is it all just making wee, you know, neurons and they're firing and you're just some fucking illusory experiencer? And again, I've pointed this out so many times. They'll say stuff like that to you. Your consciousness is an illusion, hey? An illusion denotes and requires that there must be an experiencer of said illusion. So it's impossible, absolutely impossible, no matter how much you try and contort or play mental gymnastics with yourself, you cannot escape the fundamental aspect of the experiencer, the observer. It is central to every fucking thing. So your two choices are the materialist type philosophy or some form of sort of idealistic philosophy, you know, where it's subdivisions, substance dualism and all these fucking gibberish terminologies, which pretty much just says, we don't have a fucking clue. There's two options. You're either just a piece of fucking meat, and there is no metaphysical aspect to you, or you're some sort of metaphysical type entity encased within a physical structure, and there's got to be some sort of joining between the two. But as I pointed out, the sensory apparatus do not experience fuck all. Your eyes don't see, your ears don't hear, your taste buds don't taste. Flat Earth preacher, we live on an infinite plane with many suns and moons over it. Flat Earth has been infiltrated by a new world order to get people to believe we are in a confined snow globe. That is my belief till I can actually whatever. Here's a problem, Flat Earth preacher. You know, because I guarantee you that I know the image you have in your mind of an infinite plane. You've got an image of an infinite plane laterally. So, you know, 360 degrees, like two-dimensionally, you're saying it's infinite. What about above and what about below? They're finite. How's that work? Surely if you're going to invoke some sort of infinite type scenario, it has to be everywhere. Up, down, left, right, all possible ways you can go. Or you could imagine that you're in some sort of Cartesian cube type scenario, and that in each individual cube is your reality or this reality. And then you move beyond that boundary barrier point, you're into another cube with a whole new set of circumstances, maybe physics, whatever else. Right? And it's infinite, up, down, left, right, and every other possible direction. But if you're going to invoke that physicality is infinite, but you're only invoking it laterally, like two-dimensionally, across the way, then I've got serious issue with that. Because you're encompassing it with some finite above and below. So we're entrapped within an enclosure. Which, as you say, you've got an aversion to snow globes and being in some sort of containment. But yet, you're not accounting for above and below. So what is it? You're only contained above and below, but you can go laterally in any direction infinitely. I don't know how that makes sense. Are these two boundaries just fucking... So you'd have to have an infinite fucking, you know, floor, infinite fucking ceiling. But what's beyond them? Do they not have any depth to them? What if you're in some sort of isolated, contained thing that's moving through an infinite space? What about There's many possibilities. Well, that's it, Ames. It is, you know, we've spoken about that on this channel so many times. Any observer, individual, in their visual field, it looks like you're in some sort of oblate spheroid. So you could say that the sky appears to be domed. Okay? So the sky comes down, any direction you look, it appears to be curving down, and the floor comes up to meet it. So you're standing in, you know, an oblate type sphere, and that's you as the observer. That idea, I can see that it comes from visual perception, because it appears that you've got a dome, but you know fine well it's no, because if you move in that direction, you can quite clearly establish that it never ended when you got to it. Oh, the sky came down there at my horizon, so I walked to it, and now I've walked into the dome. What's that, Martin Allen? Exactly there, Sherwood, that's exactly what I was pointing out. Maybe you've paused or you've came late, but you'll probably hear this in about 10-15 minutes time. Hope you're well. What is that about the stickers on the Hurley Globes? I remember it. I know that I've seen this. Something about it's just a toy or something. That's no good, Des. You should be fucking here waiting on my every breath. Right? What kind of fan are you? I mean, you should be fucking ashamed of yourself. Deeply disappointed. Take the gold star off the fridge, put it in the bin, because you're no worthy. I mean, all the talk of models and stuff, I mean, I'm on board with people theorising and postulating between each other about what it actually is, but it all comes down to one thing. We need the freedom to explore the fucking thing in its entirety. That is the only way to establish what it truly is, through direct experience of it. Right now, every single one of us is disorientated in a confined position. As I said before, you know, if I blindfold you, wipe your memory and throw you in a room, and there's other people in that room and they've got books and philosophies and ideas and yada yada yada, they'll have you in that room going round and round in circles, convincing you, and you may go with one, and then a few years later you go with another because that doesn't make sense now, and yada 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 yada. At no point in any of the proceedings did you ever stop and go and try and establish what the outer walls, the perimeters of the area you found yourself in. That's the only way that we're going to eradicate any of this. You want religions gone? You want all this confusion gone? We need to establish exactly where the fuck we are then. Then we don't need substitutes. Don't need religions and philosophies and all this gibberish. We would know through experience what it actually is. But while you're in the middle of the room arguing and debating over books and teachings and literature about such and such said so and yada yada, you're just wasting your fucking time. Alright, let me have a wee look here. If you want to join me, you need to send me an email if you get something to say. If you don't have anything to say, I'm not going to be on much longer. This is another reason. As I said so many times before, one of the main things about the Saturday evening was to give you, the people, the opportunity to have your say. When I came to this, I could see that there was so much control going on. There was so much shutting down of, you know, the common man's voice, and they didn't really have a place to hear that voice. Maybe it's just because there is other avenues, I don't know, I've not checked. Right? But for me, I wanted to maintain that opportunity so that people would always feel that they can hear whatever it is that they think they've discovered or whatever. But unless I've got something to say on a Saturday evening, I'm not going to give my Saturday evening up to come and sit here and talk to a piece of fucking plastic when I don't really have anything to say. So, and that's not me trying to goad and use threats, well, I'll not be on if nobody comes and speaks to me. I don't mean it like that. I just mean there's no function, there's no purpose to this. It's not going to satisfy me. I don't need the attention. I'll come on if I've got something that I feel's valid to offer. If nobody's coming and utilising the platform for any of that, then I'm just not going to bother my arse with it. I'm not here to fucking make money out of anybody or con anybody out of anything. How about the other shit that's going on? You know, again, it's so fucking boring to me that the whole divide and conquer, and you know, everywhere you go now you get people trying to fucking police each other. And this is what I'm talking about the mimicking and muddying the waters left, right and centre. You know, you get people who have been preyed upon by emotional fucking, you know, mechanisms, you know, usurping people's liberties and freedoms because of this pseudo-moral fucking position of the greater good and for the good of your health. Why have people not got the attitude, fuck you, who the fuck do you think you are, that you think that you can usurp my freedoms to dictate to me what you think's best for me, and I don't even fucking know you. A bunch of fucking strangers, psychopaths and fucking kiddie fiddlers on your telly telling you to fucking wear masks and to berate others. I mean, there's an incident that happened here in Scotland with a football player, that's soccer for anybody that's American. He plays for a particular team who decided he was going to go away for the day. Now this individual received an absolute barrage of fucking hatred, and it was being promoted in the mainstream. So they love to take these things because what it then does is it then gives tools and empowers the fucking dictator wannabes of the world to start trying to police everybody else that they see fucking fit. Now, where do you think that's going to fucking end up? Because I guarantee you it's not going to be fucking pretty. Because I'm sick to fucking death of fucking wannabe dictators trying to act like they're fucking medical experts and that they're on some sort of moral high ground to dictate who should be doing what, when and where. It's getting absolutely fucking ridiculous. What did I say away at the beginning of this? I guarantee you that they're going to want you out protesting. That they're going to want you at each other's fucking throats. What's happening? You can't go to church. You can't go to the gym. You can't make love to your partner. You can't visit your elderly parents. You can go to the fucking pub. You can eat your shitey food and you can go out and protest out in the fucking street. Oh, I wonder what the agenda is here. What a fucking puzzle. That was another thing I liked what Kaz said the other night, you know, talking about that, you know, and how when the taking of empires used to go on, and what they would do is they would take loyalists, and when they were taking over new lands and whatever, they would put their loyalists in there, give them the land, give them houses, yada yada yada, because these people were loyal to the fucking crown, loyal to the fucking dictators. So that was, you know, offered up by Kaz the other night, just as a wee anecdotal possibility, you know, for the sake of it. What if it's a way to establish the loyalists so that they can then terraform new area and take the loyalists so that they've got a population of fucking idiotic, blind fucking followers and worshippers? Because what's happening here in this area is that they're getting found out left, right and centre. So maybe they want to pawn top or fuck off to some other area and take some workers with them. Harry B. Hey Dale, as a bona fide flat earther, how am I meant to address the inevitable ridicule ballers give? For the first and foremost, you need to stop saying you're a flat earther, because the earth's no flat, and you shouldn't be claiming that it is flat. If people want to believe in a ball, that's up to them. What you need to first establish is that you have a full comprehension of their argumentation and the gibberish, and be able to articulate and highlight the utter nonsensical aspects of their beliefs. Ridicule means nothing. Ridicule is only relevant when you place relevance upon it, which means that you're still in a weak state of mind where you're attached to a position of giving a fuck about what other people think of you. Because right there and then, that is an avenue for you to be corrupted. Being accepted by others. One of the best fucking tools they've got. So, that's the types of things I would be focusing on. James Walsh wants a quick chat about electricity. Never been great with electrics. I don't fully comprehend electricity. So, it's an avenue that I've said before that I intend on getting a better understanding of. Link sent, James. Neil Williams, away you go, son. This is the types of people that just fucking piss me right off. These fucking... I mean, what do you think you are, Neil Williams? Where is your platform? Where's your walk, Neil? You're just one of these people that is too scared to do anything. Right? But you live in some wee delusional place in your wee mind, right? Where you've convinced yourself that you're some sort of superior being, and then you set out into the world trying to dictate to everybody else what they should be doing. Where's your platform, Neil Williams? Where's your fucking walk? Let's have a look at it. Maybe I should come to yours and start dictating to you what you should and shouldn't be fucking doing. I am me, you are you. Fuck all the way off, and see when you get there, try and fuck off a wee bit further.
You're gonna answer.
Boy. James.
How's it going, Dale?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, I can hear you.
You're quite quiet, but...
Yeah. The connection isn't right here. I'll come in for it, see if it's
don't know what's going on, James, but you're obviously in issues with your tech.
Can you hear me there now?
Aye, faintly. I can hear you faintly.
I'll try and go closer to the mic. I was just calling. I was having a little think there, and you said something about, you were talking about pressure. Someone had asked a question about electricity or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And I was thinking about it. And electricity is just, you have your source, and that's where the high pressure is, and it moves to the you want to operate. It has no pressure, and then you apply your pressure, and you get your, you get your power.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you could kind of think of it like a river with tributaries and stuff like that, and it gets to whatever it's, powering at the end. But
So generating it through motion, is that what you mean, through friction?
well, yeah, through pressure, like you have your high pressure goes to your substations and stuff, and it gets transformed into a lower pressure, so it keeps going like that down to your receptacle, wherever you have your socket or your outlet or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps applying a pressure, same, to cause motion.
No, but the motion is the pressure through friction, whether it's a dynamo or whatever that's then converted. Is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, the pressure, the pressure is the applied pressure at the source or whatever, and then it moves the, free electrons down through the cable, and then that pressure is applied to everything that it ends up powering at the end.
See, but in my understanding, I think that's a faulty notion. People talk about that, think as if electricity is like wee space balls that travel through a cable, or within the cable. As far as I'm understanding it, it's not actually happening there. It's happening on the outside of the cable.
Like the electromagnetic force, like the field created around it.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the point is. I mean, what is it in relevance to?
Well, I was just talking about how, again, it's like you said, everything requires pressure for to create motion.
Yeah.
Or to give anything. It's the same principle with electricity, because everyone always brings up, electricity and magnetism. And I'm sure magnetism probably works on a similar principle, if you knew enough about it or whatever to, try and apply that logic to it. But it's the same pressure is required for everything, as with electricity,
Yeah.
But people try and bring it up as a, something you can't explain. So if you can't explain it, they say you don't have an understanding of it or whatever.
Well, that's it. People know how to use it, but they don't actually know what it is. As I say,
Yeah.
I spoke to a family member that's been an electrician for 50 years, and I asked him the question, what is electricity, and he stuttered and came to the realisation that nobody's ever asked him that question, and he's never even thought about it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. People just, go through the motions, doing what they, just to get your paycheck. But people don't really go into, any real in-depth inquiry about what it is they're actually dealing with,
Yeah.
They just know what to do, what not to do, how
That's it.
not to get blown up, or, but they're just safety precautions you take. It doesn't necessarily mean you have an understanding of, what's going on.
Yeah. Exactly.
The internal workings of it,
It's the same with the majority of the tech that we have these days. People know how to, use it, switch it on, get it to perform whatever trick it is they want it to perform, but they have no comprehension of the physicality, what's actually going on, the actual physics behind any of it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's
Unless you...
Yeah.
Unless you really... you'd have to dedicate yourself completely to some of these things to have, even any kind of an overview of what's going on.
Yeah.
And to try and people claiming that they know this and they know that because somebody wrote a book 1,000 years ago, doesn't mean anything,
No. As I say, they're only ever playing with effects. That's the only thing they're experiencing. But what's actually at the root of these effects? It seems to be lost. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like you keep saying. All we can do is base things on what we can, you know, prove to be cause and effect or whatever it is. Like we understand different things, and you just have to use that logic and apply it to everything.
Yeah.
To make sense of where you are and what's going on, but.
Exactly. Well, I'm of the ilk when it comes to, you know, the natural world, or what we call the natural world. If it starts to get too complex, something's not right. You know, as I said earlier, you know, there should be incremental, simplistic understandings that you can reference and experience in a practical fashion for yourself, so that you can build, you know, what we would call knowledge or comprehension. And that quite a lot of the time that's just not there. Particularly nowadays, you know, we're talking about fucking black holes and fucking warpy, bendy space times and all this fucking gibberish.
It's crazy too. Like now, when you see stuff like that popping up and you're recommended or whatever it is, you know, it's almost like kids stuff popping up. It's like, you know, like cartoons. Like it's not relevant. It's like almost, I don't know. You can't comprehend how it's still a thing that people accept as reality. Like, you know.
It's just a repetition, and that's how the brainwashing keep you in a hypnotic trance, and that's why they're popping up. You know, they're just trying to, you know, keep up the hypnotism. That's why it's, you know, prevalent in the media. You know, and they've increased it over the last few years in particular to absolutely saturating it. Yeah,
it's crazy. Even we were watching some little short video, and it had a tire. It might have been for, you know, adjusting something on a car, doing something, but it had this wheel spinning around. At the beginning, it was a globe, and then it turned into the wheel, and I was like, you know, it's so irrelevant to put that in there.
Yeah.
Why, you know, it didn't need to be there at all, but it's, you know, subconsciously people that, you know, if you're not aware of it, you know, it's just, you know, it's subliminal kind of, you know, putting it in there continuously. So
just constantly reaffirming it, you know, making sure that you're still within the trance.
Yeah. But it's so, I don't know, you just see it's so obvious now when you see things, you know. It's just and I think a lot more people are starting to get it, but you know, you wonder, you know, what's gonna come of it then. It's like you still have people that are, you know, they're more or less fringe lunatics as well, that are going around talking about ice walls and domes and shit like that.
Yeah.
We don't know. We have to explore it.
Exactly.
You know? And that's what needs to be a consensus amongst the people, that's what needs to be done. But,
exactly.
I don't know. Maybe.
But it's no easy, mate, because people need fucking replacements. People need, you know, dummy tits and pacifiers, and if you take one thing away, they need something else to replace it. And for fuck's sake, you know.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But
yeah.
Getting to the stage, you know, where you want to. It's crazy even too that, you know, you want to see things getting done and things being, you know, buried once and for all. Like, but even talking about this experiment of doing the, you know, putting up the blocks and putting it over water and, you know, doing all this to see. I mean, even that has to be considered, or, you know, there's a lot of effort goes into that to prove something that we don't need, you know, any more proof. Or, you know, we understand how water works. We don't need to do all this ridiculous shit.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, you know, I don't know if that's necessary or not.
It's no, it's all.
It might at least, you know.
Well, you know, it would. For me, it would be beneficial because people are under this fucking delusion. Because this is the thing, just as you say, we understand water and its behaviour, But what you have is sophistry at work again, where it invents, you know, this pseudo fucking argument that appears on the surface to be some sort of relevance or, you know, worthwhile, you know, point that they're putting across, when it's just gibberish. You know, you understand the substance, you know its behaviour. No, why are you trying to measure that when you've already established its behaviour? You know, but because they've got this long-winded gibberish about how this magical force bends it, it puts people into this position of feeling as if they have to counter that. When in reality, these people haven't offered you anything; they've just offered you word salad, trying to negate a physical, you know, a part of the physical world that's there for everybody to fucking experience.
Yeah, and people should be turning around and looking at them and saying, all right, well, this is
Aye, it should be globe believers.
telling.
Globe believers should be the ones
Yeah.
that building this structure.
Yeah.
They're the ones that should be doing it. They're the ones that have got all the fucking money, all the funding, and taking all the super chats and getting government investments. They're the ones that should be fucking constructing it, because they're the ones that are saying it behaves contrary to the rest of the populace's direct experience.
Exactly, yeah. The onus should be on them to
Yeah.
prove what they're saying.
Aye. I guarantee if you went back 100 years ago and you went to fucking tradesmen, you know, people of the real world and practicality, and told them that a standing body of water can bend and warp through objects, they would have probably hung you right there and then.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not like that now, but
Yeah. That's all because we've got the TV now. And people see it in the TV and that's it, that's all they need. Oh, I've seen it in the telly, so therefore I'm going to doubt my sanity.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, or even when you call over to, you know, see relations or anything, and they're glued to the TV, and their thoughts are, you know, usually triggered by stuff that they've seen on there, or, you know, it's like, or they're consumed with, you know, whatever it is, Trump, or, you know, it doesn't really matter, but whatever it is, they're consumed by it.
Yeah.
It has their attention.
They're all sitting about waiting for somebody else to fucking save their day, or, you know, transform the world to the way they want it to be, or some shite.
Yeah. Yeah, instead of just doing something for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I don't know, all you can do is really live the life you're saying you want people to live, and show it. And people take stuff like that, and even if they don't say anything right away, they might come around to the, you know, concept or the idea of thinking for yourself, and not just accepting what's put out there to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, I think this whole COVID-19 bullshit is starting to, a lot of people are starting to look at it differently, and look, you know, even you look at any of the political things, or any of that shit that's on, or the news, you know, the media coverage, there's so many dislikes now. There's more dislikes than likes on their stuff, so
Yeah.
people are starting to get to the stage where they're asking questions and saying what the fuck is going on, but I guess we have to start somewhere.
Yeah. That's it.
So, yeah, well, that was pretty much it. You probably want to get off, so I just wanted to mention that about the electricity and how it's all pressure as well. So, anyway, I'll let you go.
No worries, bud.
Good chatting to you.
You too, my man.
All right, talk to you soon.
You too. Cheers, bud. Take it easy.
Take it easy, bud.
Cheers, my man. COS. I'll check that later. I'll just go through and shout out everybody that's in the chat. See what people are saying here. Ivor Tassane, One Man He's Detector, Cheris Rosen, Mary Moon, Toolfish, Tony T, JT The Game, IMSA, Megan Noob, One Man He's Detector. What the fuck's going on? Oops, Crystal Rod of Power, Moonshiner, TP and a 3 Emerald Rider, how you doing? Chris Rosen, Steve HV, how you doing? Andrew, how you doing? Boris Chops, hello. TP and a 3, Stuart Lundy, how's it going? Nick, High Level, how's it going? Boom Me, Dusty, Jack Stander. I know what he's Neil, but at the end of the day, you know, I'm me. And you know, if somebody's that insecure, you know, you see that when people have, you know, a discussion with me or anything, there's manners, there's respect, there's all the social stuff there. You know, when I'm on here and I'm projecting what I want to project, that's up to me. If somebody is rattled and insecure about a man on a screen, appearing two-dimensionally on a screen, then that's an option. There's an avenue for them to learn something about themselves and move on, that they're deeply insecure and that there's something inward that they have to have a look at. So, I don't kowtow to trying to fucking appease and please other people. I would be an absolute shambles if I was trying to please as many people as I could. Who would I even be? What would my identity be? Custard, first time here. Rickus Vaticus, how you doing? I'm actually quite placid for a Scot. What all that means. That's that, Emerald Rider. It's not about me. It's not about my persona, my characteristics, how I look, my appearance, my skin tone. It's got nothing to do with any of the subjective aspects. It's about what's being discussed, about what's being offered up to you. The content. The content is no me, the human. Fuck, Neil, see at the end of the day, who gives a fuck, mate? The problem is that people who pass judgment on others at a subjective level have got serious issues. Who are they? As I say, if you've got an attachment to these people, then that's what's going to then affect you, like you don't want to go out without a hat on. Fucking shine your baldy head. Make a feature of it. Walk out into the street proud of your fucking baldness. Laugh and smile at them. It's always the fucking best method. For narcissistic, needy, controlling, manipulative types, the best thing for them is to show them how successful you are. And I don't mean success as in monetary stature. Success as in being comfortable with you. Accepting who and what you are, your physical appearance, and not giving any fucks whatsoever about anybody else and their opinions of it. That grates on them even fucking more. So I'd be proud of your baldiness. I'd shine the fucker right up, make it a feature. Wear a t-shirt saying, I'm a baldy bastard and I don't give a fuck. People will want to prey on you when they know you've got an insecurity. Predators want to move in, and actually if you look at it, the predator's actually serving you, because it's giving you the opportunity to realise your own weakness. But as soon as a predator realises that you've got an insecurity, they hone in on it and they start to prod and play at it. Again, that's a method I use with my children. I make it so that they don't become insecure about any aspect of themselves. They take a slagging, I give them a ribbon, they give me the same back. so that they can see that it's just banter and that it doesn't mean anything. And if their own father gives it to them, then do you really think they're going to care about any strangers out there? They'll just laugh. There'll be some woman out there that's got a fetish for baldy nappers that wants to run her tongue over your fucking supreme baldness. I guarantee it. Kids are only sensitive if you've got them in a mainstream education where they've already been gaslit and their self-esteem has been lowered because they're out with the parents' place, and it can be scary and isolating. And you know what it's like with children and their groupthink, and then that peer pressure becomes even more amped, and then that sends the kid into doubting their own sanity. They're being gaslit, their self-esteem goes down, they start to get depressed. Then you can say they're a bit sensitive, which obviously you would have to be aware of in any given situation. But with my children, they've always had it. They know that there's nothing. They know that I don't have any vindictive, aspect towards them. I'm not trying to harm them. They get what it's about. And now they've got a strength about them. They don't care. They just laugh. If I call the youngest one Pishy Pants because he's had a couple of accidents of pissing the bed, so I call him Pishy Pants. Call him, you're a wee baby, you need a nappy, wee Pishy Pants. No, he laughs. He says, no, you're Pishy Pants. Right? Because I'm not intimidating him and putting him in fear. So it's all about your mannerisms and how you approach these things. There's various complexities to it. But there's vulnerable people out there because they've already been gaslit by the idiotic scenarios and situations they've been put in, with dysfunctional morons run about them, children and adults alike. I mean, if your children are in a situation and they're going to school, then I guarantee that's what's going to happen. My eldest daughter was subject to it. She had, issues with herself and her sexuality, and she was a bit of a kind of tomboy when she was younger. And she went into, secondary school, and for the first year it seemed to be okay. Then by the time she got to the second year, all of a sudden eating disorders were starting to happen. She was starting to try and become something that she's not, trying to be, some image, in order to gain acceptance by what she would have viewed as the popular, the in crowds. So she would gaslight herself, doubted her own being. And now, after 3 years of being out of that situation, she's actually found herself again. So, be very careful about what authority you give to other people in regards to your children, because it's not just that they're going into an environment with other pseudo authorities and dysfunctional adults that you call teachers. They're in amongst an endless amount of dysfunctional children who have got dysfunctional parents who are living a lie and living a life of delusion, where stature and popularity and fame and celebrity and money and how many stripes is your jumper? You've only got 2 stripes on your jumper. Ho ho ho! You have to be ridiculed. What do you think that's going to do to a vulnerable fucking mind? And that's it, and then they're getting it reaffirmed through fucking TV. This is what it means to be popular. This is what it means to be accepted. This is what's required of you in order to be accepted. Again, that's the issues I have with all this tech that we have. It should never be allowed that it is utilised for subjective means. It should be a tool of conveying factual, demonstrable, information. Things that are of use to you and relevant in order to equip you and make your life better and more prosperous. I don't want to see fucking some dick sniffer on my telly, 16-year-old singing about deep love and all that fucking shite. Oh, look at my crib, look at this, look at my social media fucking razzmatazz life, isn't it fucking wonderful? What do you think that's doing to your fucking children? These tools that we have are no evil or bad or whatever, but they can be used to achieve the bad, and that's exactly what's been done, because people are too fucking stupid and apathetic to realise what's happening. And then you see it playing out. All this discussions about gender equalities and skin equalities and fucking all this fucking garbage. Since when did that ever matter? To real people like me, I couldn't give a fuck. I could not give a fuck if you had 5 shades of fucking skin colour, 4 cocks on your forehead, 3 nipples on your arsehole, and you shag fucking other ones of your ilk. I do not give a rat's arse. That's up to you. Keep your subjectivity to your fucking self, or partake in it with others who are woefully participating in the same shite that you like. As soon as we try and bring it into an objective arena and assert it as a right or a dominance over the rest, it's just going to cause a shit show. Just like I was talking about the physical and the metaphysical and keeping the two of them separately. The same thing is required if we're going to live as civilisations and communities and we have technologies like this. It should never be usurped for one narrative and influence. It should only be used to share objective facts. Or you can go to certain avenues through your choice to partake in whatever subjective preferences you have. But when we see it spewed out across the whole populace, all this mix and match of fucking subjectivity, all that's going to happen is fucking everybody's going to be each other's fucking throats. And again, it shows you the level of imbecile that's in positions of power. Because decent people that have got the ability to discern and fucking reason can see these things as clear as fucking day. So why is it not being changed? Because people keep allowing the same fucking avenues for these dipshits to have the upper hand and perpetuate the dysfunctionality that's going on round about you. I've seen it, Rick Vacus. I've seen the detrimental effect that it's had on young people. Young people who get this, low self-esteem, and they see everybody else's amazing life, or apparent amazing life on social media. Oh, they've got so many friends, they're popular, look at the life they're living. And it's all pish. Because at the end of the day, these same people need to wipe their arse, they need to have a shite, their farts stink. They don't know where the fuck they are. They've got no fucking clue, no fucking orientation to what their life is, where they are, what they're a part of, or what any it fucking means. So then they've got this faulty, delusional view of what it means to be happy and successful, and they run about desperately trying to grasp at it. And it's just a ghost. It doesn't exist. How many times have we heard the story? Oh, such and such came from rags to millions, thought it was going to be the answers to his fucking dreams, committed suicide fucking a few years later, couldn't handle it. Because that's not what this game's about. How fucking easy would it be if it was just about how much you can amass and accumulate? Kevin Rose sent you 3 something EOS Coinbase. I don't know what that is. That's the same thing that fuck, Dom Yamaha sent, but it's no EOS. I'll need to have a look at that later. I've got fuck all else left to say. I might have something else to say, but I've not got it right here. Aye.
Just on myself, but I thought I'd
You
make
just done yourself?
Aye.
Well, if you're not having one, it's alright.
We'll just make it
No, don't worry, it's because I'm going to come off soon anyway. Nobody likes me. You love me though. She ignored that. Right, take it easy people. I'll see you all very soon.